Hi guys, this is Julie with Infinity Bouquets. Today we're going to take a look at the freeze dryer that I have. It's a floral preservation freeze dryer. It is not made for food. I guess I could do food, but since it's kind of not food grade right now because I use it for flowers, it would be kind of gross. So what we're looking at right now is my freeze dryer. You can probably hear it running. It is fully loaded at this moment, and it is currently in its first phase. We're gonna go up. You can see these are all my pressed flower presses in there. This is the top chamber of my freeze dryer. This is actually where the flowers sit. It's a big, long tube, and it's got some shelving in there. You'll see it's kind of by heat transfer is how this top chamber works. This top chamber goes down to the negative numbers. Right now it's at a negative 16.4 in that top chamber, where our goal is to get that to at least a negative 18 to a negative 20 when we first start. This process first starts at about a negative 20, and it sits there for about 24 hours before I actually load anything into there to make sure that the temperature gets down to where I need it before I take all of my frozen pressed keepsakes or frozen flowers and place them in here. I do not really mix the freeze-dried flowers with the pressed flowers just because they're on different programs. The pressed flowers are in this machine for at least 2 weeks, whereas the freeze-dried flowers are in here for about 3 weeks, a little over 3 weeks. Right now you can see that my program, my segment is at 0. This basically is telling us that I'm on my 12-day cycle that this is going to run, but it's at segment 0, which means it has really not started. It's at the beginning of the cycle. This goes all the way up to a segment 25, and it goes up in degrees. So what that does is it moves this temperature up a couple degrees every about 2 days or so until it hits about 70 degrees in there, room temperature. So what we have down here is my condenser chamber. This condenser chamber is where all the ice will start building up. And this is the condenser controls over here. This temperature over here is how cold it is in this condenser down here. This condenser needs to stay at least a negative 40 degrees at all times. This is telling us our vacuum pressure, because a freeze dryer works under a complete vacuum. The pressure in here right now, the vacuum millitors is rating about 70. This is perfect. If it starts going up, you know you're going to be losing a vacuum, which is never good for your flowers. Once you lose that vacuum, you will lose your flowers, meaning they will pretty much wither and die. So this machine is very operational only with the vacuum. When everything is working properly, this is kind of what you'll see. What the freeze dryer actually does is takes the moisture from whatever's up here, in this case flowers, and it takes the frozen state. So they're freezing right now in there. It takes that ice and basically it goes through a process called sublimation, which, if you're not familiar with that word, it is a science term that you probably learned in a science class back in high school, but it's taking your frozen state, whatever is frozen up there, and skipping the liquid phase actually and vaporizing it. So you're going from a frozen state straight to a gas. It's taking that solid, which is up here, and vaporizing it. Which leaves, what's going to happen is it does leave the near perfect flower. So when you freeze that flower, it's frozen in its state that it came in. So that's why it's very important to get the flowers or get whatever it is in the perfect state, not wilted, not browned, because however it goes in there, if it goes in perfect, it will come out near perfect, that same color and that same, with the same brown or whatnot. Freeze drying is not going to take out any of the impurities of the flowers. So this is the basis of my operational use here. This is what I use to freeze dry all my flowers in either a pressed state or in a whole form. So before it goes in here, they come through here. You can kind of see all this mechanics going on down here. This is my vacuum pump. This is what is holding the vacuum inside of these chambers in here in order for the process of sublimation to happen. So as we come over here, you're going to see I have many freezers going on here. These freezers are holding all of my flowers before they go into the freeze dryer. So if we take a look, we're going to open one. This doesn't have too many in it right now, but these are frozen flowers. So the first step is when I get your flowers, they are going inside of my freezers here to become frozen and stay in that frozen state. You can kind of just see a little bit of my mess here, some frames, boxes of flowers, and every client's stuff here. Pretty interesting things, but really this is it. This is how my operation works from my garage. You can see the wonderful machinery involved in this. There's a lot of technicality to it. So again, this is where I do most of my work. This is where all of the technicality happens involved in what I do. So if you like what I do, you can subscribe to this channel. My name is Julie with Infinity Bouquets. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.